Raisha?
I'm ready.
All right. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Fairfield Township Butler County Community Improvement Corporation quarterly meeting. It's Tuesday, June 18th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Could I get a roll call?
Mrs. Vanderhart? Here. Mr. Goins?
Here.
Ms. Schultz here. Mr. Birding?
Present.
Mrs. Harkemeyer? Here. Mr. McAbee?
Here.
Mr. Statzer?
Here.
Mr. Philpott? Absent.
At this time, I'd like to first of all rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item on the agenda is the minutes. Use a motion to approve the CIC meeting minutes for March 19th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Before we make any comments, at the last meeting, it's been a while, and we voted to accept my resignation. I'm not supposed to be on the board. So my vote
That's
doesn't
not a
count,
problem.
and I should probably go sit in the audience. I apologize about that.
As the president's board, I'd be fine if you sat up here with us. But you can.
I mean, I'll
Yeah,
stay seated here,
Thanks.
but obviously I have no vote.
Okay. Mr. Goins?
Yes.
Ms. Schultz, yes. Mr. Birding?
Yes.
Mrs. Harkemeyer?
Yes.
Mr. McAbee?
Yes.
Mr. Statzer?
Yes.
All right. The first item is on new business is I just wanted to give you an update. We've been in talks with Neighborhood Housing Services of Hamilton. They have expressed some interest in acquiring 4 lots for development of single-family housing. This is located on Milton Street in the vicinity of 2038 and 2041. This is just south of the pocket park that was recently completed. Originally, we had plans for actually construction of the pocket park on 3 of the lots located at 2038. But since we moved it across the street, those lots are available. And Neighborhood Housing Services is very interested in them. And if they get them, they plan to break ground by the end of the year. I've also been in talks with Habitat for Humanity. They are currently, they have this schedule set for this year. They don't have any intention of building in Fairfield Township this calendar year, but we're in talks of looking at some lots for possibly next year. So just wanted to update you on that as well. That's all I really have for an update, but we do have a resolution to consider. Resolution number 2041. This resolution authorizes the executive director to execute all necessary documents to transfer the properties located at 2038 Milton Street and 2041 Milton Street to Neighborhood Housing Services of Hamilton, Inc. This includes 4 parcels.
I move to adopt resolution 2024-01.
Second. And we have some new faces in the audience. I'd like to tell you a little bit about what this is about. In our 5 Points area, there's been a number of properties that are blighted and nuisance properties. So there has been funding that has been made available to the township through land banking, where we've knocked down these houses, and now they are being donated to National Housing Solutions. We've also done it in the past for Habitat for Humanity, and they are going to be building low-income or affordable housing over there. Which is a really good thing for that whole area because it's getting rid of properties that are not, they're more of an issue, they're a fire hazard, they're a nuisance, and they're turning them into properties nice properties where people will be happy to live, and it also turns it into a tax base. So it's a win-win for everybody.
It is a win-win for everybody. But shouldn't we have some type of agreement with them on what they're going to do in the time frame? To my knowledge, we have not accepted or agreed to.
So,
And in theory, we've agreed that we would like to donate that, but I'm pretty sure we had some type of agreement with Habitat, that the board signed some type of agreement with them.
Sure, and that's within the purview.
We do have a MOA with Neighborhood Housing Services. I'd be glad to send a copy of that to you after this meeting.
Well, that's okay, I mean.
Yeah, we use the same language, memorandum of
Understanding?
understanding. Yeah.
We need to let us that program have some type of,
That's entirely up to the board, however the board wants to operate. If you're comfortable operating under the memorandum of understanding, that will be legally sufficient. If you'd like to go forward with contractual documents, that's within the purview of the board as well.
well, I mean, I think we just need to protect ourselves, and if you say that's good enough, I haven't read it lately.
Well, with respect to protecting yourself, obviously, I have not also seen the memorandum of understanding,
I'm
but
sure you guys prepared it.
I would expect Larry put that together, but I'm sure it's legally sufficient, but, if you, with a contract, you can put in whatever terms you would like to put into. So if there are additional protections, in addition to what's already been put into the MOU, I mean, you can certainly do that, take that one step further with the NHS, or you can rely on the MOU. I mean, it's really however much you guys want to pack into this deal.
Well, I mean, one of the things that comes to mind is the timeframe.
Yeah, they were granted funding. I can't remember the exact source, but it was awarded through the county to the Neighborhood Housing Services for construction, single-family housing. They earmarked some of the funds for at least the first construction, the first house construction, and how they typically do business is they build and then they try to leverage a little bit more money, and they have all the houses centrally located near each other to kind of reduce expenses that they could incur for construction. We do have that MOU. I don't know if we may have had a more formal agreement with Habitat, but I don't recall that.
I just think we need to have something outlining who's doing what and how long they have, things like that. If that's in the MOU, then that's fine. You remember?
I don't recall, but if they get funding, usually grant money, that usually has to be spent in a certain time frame. And so,
Doesn't mean it has to be spent here, or does it? You know what I'm saying?
but I think they got the grant to build on these properties.
That's what I understand. Yeah.
So, and it's going to have a certain time frame for them to spend the money. And I don't know if there's a reimbursement process for that grant money, or if it's here's the money, now go spend it. I'm not certain, but a lot of times it's a reimbursement for those types of grants. So, I don't know what the time frame is, but it seems to me that if Habitat's not willing to build this cycle, I think this is our best chance to get the housing developed in that area. So I'm okay with whatever's in the MOU. I'm sure people looked at it, and people that are more used to doing contracts on those types of things than I am.
Is that something we could attach to this resolution, or?
Certainly, if you want to incorporate the MOU into the transfer of the property, you're certainly able to do that.
So is that a motion and a second? Do we have the roll?
We do, we have to call roll. Any other discussion? Mr. Birding?
Yes?
Mr. Goins?
Yes.
Ms. Schultz, yes. Ms. Harkemeyer?
Yes?
Mr. McAdie?
Abstain?
Mr. Statzer?
Yes. Did you go?
Yeah, I did.
Did you call your own name?
I did.
Okay, good.
All right. I don't imagine anyone signed up for this to comment on this meeting specifically.
They did not.
Okay, great. Any board member comments?
I just want to welcome Mr. Statzer to the board. Thank you for serving.
Thank you for having me.
It's great that we have community members that are willing to spend the time to get involved with the way that the government works, and especially
in this instance where our residents are more affected by the decisions we make on this board, because it definitely helps bring affordable housing and those types of things to our neighborhood. So thank you and welcome.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
So make sure you send your receipts and things like that in the check.
Take care of it. Sure. Thank you. Directly to you, Joe.
And at the third meeting is when we teach you the official handshake.
Oh, wow. I'm looking forward to that. Yes.
Hopefully I'll come up with
I want to
that.
be able to practice it for a little while. Let's get it.
Anything else? Great. I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 7:11. Got a second?
Second?
Mr. Goins?
Yes.
Ms. Schultz, yes. Mr. Birding?
Yes.
Mrs. Harkemaier?
Yes.
Mr. McAdie?
Yes.
Mr. Stetser?
Yes. Does that mean we're adjourned, Mr. President?
Yeah, meeting's adjourned. Okay. Yeah.
We're adjourned. Okay, we'll take just a couple minutes to reset, and then we'll move forward with our regular trustee meeting.
We have business to do, so
Yeah, we have one business.
Stay up here, so yeah. We'll do something.
It's not.
Yeah, sure. We'll do that. On me. Okay. Here, put some-
Yeah. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Ryan, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, your name's back.
We go way back.
You already got it down, yeah.
Just a simple gentleman's handshake.
Between gentlemen.
He got me on speed dial.
Are you ready? Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, June 18th, 2024 at 7:15 p.m. I move to call this Fairfield Township Board of Trustees meeting to order. Mrs. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Here.
Trustee Birding?
Present?
Trustee McAdie?
Here.
We have with us this evening Boy Scouts from Troop 947. Would everyone please rise for the pledge, and our scouts will lead us off.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we have a public hearing tonight. This is case FTZ C24-3C, Optimize Senior Living. I move to open the public hearing regarding FTZ C24-3C, Optimize Senior Living. Is there a second?
Second?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes?
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee McAdie?
Here.
And that passes, okay.
For anybody intending to offer any testimony this evening at the public hearing, I would ask just that you rise and raise your right hand and I'll swear you in. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you very much.
All right, may we have the zoning staff report, please?
Of course. Good evening. So the property that we're looking at today is located at 6141 and 6145 River Road, Optimized Senior Living. This is, as I mentioned before, this is case FTZC 24-3C. The applicant is requesting a zone change from F1 floodplain district to BPUD Business Plan Unit Development District. Just to orient everyone, this property is located in one of the islands of Fairfield Township, just west of the city of Fairfield. Generally it's located in the southwest portion of Fairfield Township and separated by the majority of the rest of the township by the city of Fairfield. Located on River Road, it, as I mentioned, immediately butts the city of Fairfield to the east, and there's parcels in this proposal that is located in Fairfield Township as well as the city of Fairfield. Two parcels located in Fairfield Township are approximately 6.4 acres in total. The subject parcel, as mentioned before, is currently zoned F1, and all properties to the northwest and east are also zoned F1. Properties to the east are located in the city of Fairfield and have actually already undergone a zone change in the city to a PUD. The applicant's requesting the zone change the applicant's seeking approval for both the zone change and the preliminary development plan to operate an assisted living facility and an adult daycare facility. I wish I could zoom in a little bit more. So looking at the image here, on the top right in this general area, this is the building that they plan to use as storage with the future use of office space. The building 2 will be, if approved, it will be utilized as an adult daycare facility. The 2 residential structures that are already there will be continued to be used as a residential structure, but as a use for elderly people. Previously, this property was used as a one-way farm, and historically there was a variance that went with this property, and the language in the variance specifically stated that this could be used as an emergency shelter for girls between the ages of 6 and 18. So this would be outside of that variance. Let's see. The zoning commission has heard this proposal and they recommended approval with conditions. The conditions that they put on this is that the existing vegetation along the south and west of the properties should remain or increase in size and density to provide a buffer to neighboring properties. Consolidate the 2 parcels under the proposal, the ones located in Fairfield Township, to 1 parcel, and develop an updated landscape plan will be required before the final plan is approved or any zoning certificates are issued. The applicant did have a little light detail in the preliminary plan. The purpose is pretty clear as far as what they intend to do with the use, and they are in the process of putting together more detailed site plan and architectural renderings in preparation for a final PUD approval in the future. Staff is also recommending, along with the recommendation from the zoning commission, to approve the applicant's proposal and to approve the preliminary plan with the conditions that the zoning commission also recommended, which I read probably 35 seconds ago, so I won't do it again. But if you guys have any questions for me, I'd love to entertain those. We also have a representative with the applicant here. If you'd like to discuss anything with them.
Do you have anything that you would like to share with the board? If so, just please approach and state your name and for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Lindsay McLaughlin. And I'm the owner and founder of Optimized Senior Living. We're currently located in Lebanon and Kettering and managing properties in Newtown and Loveland. My family, we're all from Fairfield. I grew up in Fairfield Township when I was 18, so being in Fairfield is really exciting to have this opportunity. And for the properties that are actually located in Fairfield Township, you had mentioned the two homes that are located there. Sorry, we don't have the renderings. But the colors and how we're going to do things are going to match what we're doing in the city of Fairfield, which is to keep the exterior of those homes an alabaster white, and do a dark brown and iron border on all of the gutters and shutters and everything. We'll be doing an extensive renovation on the inside to accommodate about 7 residents in each home, and it'll be able to provide memory care. So our whole concept is really residential assisted living, so that we can have really low caregiver to resident ratios to provide more of a personalized approach to care and a home-like setting. So it's not a facility, it really looks, feels, smells like home. And our company, I'm a nurse by trade, and we're all managed. The company is managed and led by a team of nurses as well. I'm a big advocate for having a lot of nurses, so we really just have a unique concept, a boutique style assisted living. And then the adult daycare building, like you said, there's a building 2 up there. That's not going to be immediate, that's a future phase, most likely, unless there's a high need. A lot of adult daycares went out during COVID, and we do care that there's a need often. So that'll be able to serve daytime needs for the elderly when families can't provide the care, and they just need somebody to serve them during the day. That's pretty much all I'm excited if I have any questions for me.
So would that part be a drop-in? You make arrangements? It could be just one day a week, or?
For the adult daycare? Yes.
Do you see any expansions going into the back section of the property there at any point, or just keep it as is?
No, not on the township property. Actually, the land behind the 2 residential homes there, that's the leach field, the septic.
Okay.
There is some space, I guess, between those 2 other buildings over there, but no, that's not in our plan at all. In the city part, there's that front lot, and the plan for up there is to build 2 additional homes that are 16 bedrooms each, and the plans for those mirror the buildings that we have in Lebanon, that we get built before.
So when you get those 2 built and renovate what you're going to renovate, what would be your capacity?
Yeah, so phase 1 is the 2 residential homes in the township lot, and then the administrative building that's up front in the city parcel. That one's going to be receiving a large addition off the back, and that building will serve 24 residents, and then 6 to 7 residents in each of those homes there, plus the 2 additional buildings, which would be phase 2 in probably a year and a half or 2 years. So that would be 32. So we'd be around 64 residents at total capacity. That's our total capacity that we can have.
3 to 5 years, or how long?
Yeah, and probably 3 to 4 years. Yes.
And what did the city say about the emergency calls?
We have to do a traffic study, and I know they just showed the police calls and all that are happening now for One-Way Farm. And I know they looked at the city of Lebanon and the calls that we require up there, and they didn't say a whole lot about that. That was definitely a concern initially, was there's so many, when the calls are made now, it's the township and the city that are both having to report to One-Way Farm. So, I mean, they did talk about that, and I could see that being something interesting. I mean, if we're calling from that front building, that's city, it's only the city, but if we're making a call from that back building, or those back 2 buildings that would be township, and then most likely the city would respond as well. But they approved it, so.
Did they talk to you about moving all the property into the city?
There was some talk about that, and we discussed that the last time, if that would be an option. my personal selfish reasons, I think it would be fantastic because I'm not exactly sure with payroll, that's gonna be just a thing we gotta figure out there with how the payroll taxes will work, depending what building they're in and how we run payroll there on those payroll taxes. We'll figure it out.
Well, you can move that city property back into the township. Call the mayor and ask him about that.
No, skipping the city taxes.
That's been a concern for years, the emergency calls down there, that whole stretch of township. And I only see it growing with your development. The squad calls, no matter how quickly we want to get there, we've got to cross the city.
Sure. Yeah, squad calls, I could see increasing. Police calls.
Yeah, I mean,
Squad calls.
car accidents are just as frequent down there as the actual other types of police calls probably, but, and some of that road is still in the township as you wind your way out there. But again, the squad calls, that would be a big concern for all of us. How we would cover that. Right now it's mutual aid, they go first, and then eventually we get there.
Yes, the city gets there first, but we don't respond with them. That's something that they handle in its entirety from the response to the transport.
So once we know that, then it's them.
Yeah.
They steadily complain about having to use their resources to cover our property. And I don't disagree with that. Maybe this is an opportunity to fix some of that, I don't know.
Yeah, and I was going to say from a fire perspective, I believe Fairfield's covering everything. From a police perspective, they mutual aid until we can get there. We still handle the calls in our jurisdiction down there, particularly when it was a one-way farm.
But we're thinking that we're probably gonna have decreased demand for police. And it sounds like we have our fire is being met by Fairfield. So this might even result, am I correct in assuming this might be a decrease in calls, potentially?
I would like to think so. We do have our number of calls at like the Laurels and some of the other places, but
Right.
they have a different type of patient area there also. So
Okay.
I would think it would decrease from what has been there in the past, years past.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it could potentially increase from our response. And I don't know if you have numbers of transports out of your other facilities that may give us some idea on activity from a fire and EMS standpoint.
I don't have this on me, but I know that you guys looked at that, they looked at that with the city, so I'm sure we can get that for you.
Okay.
And I will say too, in person, and obviously look at numbers, but our policies are a little bit different than like a larger assisted living facility where they have a set policy, like let's say somebody falls, for example, and their policy is no matter what, they have to call and send them out. And that's not ours. We say let's use some common sense and let's figure out the situation. We have nursing there, call family, like let's use some common sense about it. So.
Anything further?
I don't have any questions for our applicant, but I do have questions for Mr. Goins. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the conditions was to consolidate the two parcels, yes?
Yeah. Mhm.
Could you, with your pointer, outline where this exact
Yeah,
outline?
so it's
Where's
just,
those parcels?
so this large parcel here, and then this one parcel here.
Does that one parcel there connect, is it?
No, this is a parcel line also. The yellow line's also a parcel line. This is, I'm pretty sure a condition that the city's doing is they're also requiring consolidation of the parcels in the city, and then we're mirroring that with this.
So how is that?
With it being a PUD, it has a little more flexibility in use than how it was previously zoned.
Is there any road frontage on the smallest parcel?
There's no road, there's just road frontage up here.
Okay.
This is all,
It's just a question. I don't have.
Yeah, right, it just abuts the city right here. But yeah, there's frontage right up here. That might have been a part of the variance at one point as well. Or potentially there was an access agreement extended here for that variance. It was in 1987. I don't have those details
It's probably typed
readily
someplace.
available. Yeah, I've looked through them. I have.
May not be on a computer someplace, but it's probably
It is now.
typed.
I have a scanned version of it.
Okay. Thank you.
And what would be the reason to merge them into one parcel?
I think the reason, well, one, it would be continual, we would be one owner long-term. They wouldn't be able to, potentially sell this off. Since it is a planned unit development, we want to kind of have more control and consistency of the use in that parcel. And it was, and the reason that it was, I think, divided initially was due to a rule in zoning, 45 years ago.
The applicant mentioned that the leach field is behind those two houses. So I'm assuming they still have septic, not sewer. And so if a parcel's under 5 acres, there's also certain guidelines that a house has to have for septic. If it's over 5 acres, there's more leeway as far as the county's concerned.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if they combine the two, it would give them more options for that.
More requirement?
No more options, actually, less requirements.
Do you have something to add?
Yes, regarding that, we're not increasing the amount of people that are allowed per home right now. But there has been conversation about going out to the Two River Road for the water tap, because we have to install a fire suppression system into both of those homes. So in order to do that, we can do a tank system, or there has been conversation about going out and doing a water tap as well as the city.
So also sewer to this, or just water?
There has been conversation about that.
Okay.
There's a final thing, but
So you are talking about sanitary sewer also?
there has been conversation, yes. Definitely the water, I mean, the fire suppression system is something we have to have
Well, yeah,
to get licensed, so.
So that road to the top of the diagram there, I don't know which direction it is. Is that a public road back there where that land is?
I think it's private land at that point. That's just back to the gravel pit that way.
Yeah, Mark Marietta was at, they paved it and stuff a couple years ago.
I mean, it sounds like a good use for the property. I would still be very concerned about who's covering what as far as emergency runs go. Whether the city could turn around and expect us to pay for it and, or whatever, they mentioned that in the past. They should send us a bill. So I don't know where we go with that, but. Is this part of the parcel that when we had the jet agreement with Fairfield, there's like 2 parcels left that they could annex? Is this one of them?
I don't know that answer. I don't know when that agreement was made.
Recently?
Recently?
Yeah.
Oh, when they did the dog park annex, was that?
No, when we developed the agreement with the Seward Road site. When we started our JED with the city of Fairfield. That might have been before your time.
Might have been, I don't recall
Real
that.
close.
Okay.
It might have been 2 years ago or something.
Okay, so if I could direct staff to look into that and to research the JED and to see if this is something that would be contingent on that, I would like to maybe get an answer on that.
It's just
And then-
part of the street. What we had discussed being annexed was just a part of the small part of the street that we own, so that the city would just have full control over which I think they already do, the plowing and everything, but that was all I understood. That was part of that agreement.
There was another parcel.
Okay.
I want to say it was on the other side of town.
Okay.
It could be this, but it might not be.
Okay.
It might be further out because
Okay.
they've been trying to get to the river. And technically
I'll take a
developed
look.
to the river anyway.
So if we can take a look at that too. And then the other concern that I heard is that we need to find out if there's any danger of or potential action of the city of Fairfield reaching out to us for payment of services. So if we could look into that as well and reach out to Fairfield and see if they have concerns about doing that.
Does anybody talk to you about being in the JED, forming a new JED? So that way your employees would all pay that tax?
I haven't heard those words.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll have 2 action items to follow up on. Are there any other comments, questions, or concerns? Right, are there any comments from the public? Okay, anything further that we need to discuss in the hearing? All right, then I move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Trustee Harkemaier.
Yes,
Trustee Birdie.
Yes.
Trustee McAdie.
Yes?
and that passes. All right, we'll move on to items for board discussion. The first item, ribbon cutting Milton Pocket Park.
So that would be really up to the Board of Trustees on when you would like to schedule something, because the Public Works, they work very hard to get everything set and ready. And yes, thank you, Jeff and crew. So it's really whatever date you would all like.
Is the grass up and growing?
As you can see, it's grown. Watering the plants, trees. And we contact the food. For a hole on the property, a couple of
Dustodon or something? What kind of light would be on it? Dustodon or?
similar to the one that's on the other one.
Okay, is there a date that we'd like to discuss?
I think it should be maybe a weekend so that more families could be there, if possible. A weekend, like a Saturday date.
I will need something after 2:00. Would the 6th or the 13th work?
The 13th is not good for me.
The 6th is not good for me.
Now, with that being said, it's okay for this to be done without me present. So I've been to the park. It's great. It looks amazing. I'm sure the residents are already having a great time there. And so if there's a time where the majority of the board could be there, I think that's great. I'm truly out of town both those weekends, but if either one of those weekends works for you both, then you should do it.
Or I know you like the weekend, but is there potentially something during the week that would work?
The 12th, Friday the 12th is fine.
Now, that is the day of the Butler County Township Association golf outing. And I believe there's usually a dinner for that, but perhaps there could be something like Friday afternoon. I also want to be respectful of staff and their time, so maybe a Friday afternoon would be good.
Like I said, pick The Monday, the 8th is fine. Monday, the 15th is not.
I could do that.
What about Wednesday, the 26th,
Of June?
next week?
I'm not available.
Thursday, the 27th?
Not available.
Saturday, the 29th?
Not available. I'm difficult.
Saturday, the 22nd?
So just, can we circle back to July dates?
Okay.
So the 6th is not good for you, Trustee McAbey?
Correct.
The 13th is good for you?
Right now, yes.
Well, let's just schedule for the 13th is good for you. I think we should schedule it.
Okay.
It should be I think it should be on a Saturday so more families can go. If I can't go, it's okay. Like,
School's out, I mean,
school's out, but I mean, families might be, people might be working during a week, unless you're gonna do it in the evening, someday on the evening.
We could do it the 12th in the evening, or the 11th in the evening, right after work perhaps. That won't work, thank you.
and you said the 12th was gone.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys should do it this Friday. I mean, I'm gone, but I can come back for it.
I won't be available this Friday.
Just do it the 13th. It's fine. It's okay. I won't get my feelings hurt.
Okay,
It's okay. Schedule for the 13th. That's,
so the 13th at say 2:30, would that work? Okay,
okay. I think we're overthinking this. Like,
probably.
is that okay with you?
Well, I mean, it's Saturday, so whatever staff comes is got to come into work.
Do we need all the staff to be there, or are you wanting it during the day so staff can be there? To me, it's more important that the residents can be there than staff be there. In my opinion, it's their park. I think it'd be great to introduce it. The 13th gives us a couple weeks to advertise that it's going to be there. Maybe get some of the promotion items that we have here ready to hand out. Make it a big to-do in that community. I just think it would be better on a Saturday. Again, if staff wants to come and be a part of it, that's fine, but I don't know how much staff we need to be there for the ribbon cutting other than setting up some things and handing things out, right? I mean, is there other things and you're out of town?
We got it. We'll do it that day.
20th?
You can't do that, okay,
13th, perfect.
okay.
We're gonna cook hot dogs or?
Details to come later.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. All right, 2:30. All right, next item, ambulance purchase.
I'll kick it off. I've been very impressed and grateful. Chief Britta coming in new, he was very open to, I have always suggested and wanted to explore the city type, the smaller ambulances with the smaller chassis, and there's a different price point. And I just wanted to commend Chief Britta because he did look into that and he has found cost savings, and then he can talk more about that, but thank you for your work.
All right. So in conversations in the past with each of you, including Mrs. Vonderhaar, everyone indicated that they've recognized the need to reduce the overall size of our ambulances, which I echoed as well. So what we've done is we've spec'd and priced a Type 3 ambulance. So a Type 3 ambulance, which I've provided a picture of to each of you at the back end of your packet, is the van front ambulance that's lower to the ground, so it's got an overall lower height, lower length, The box in the back, we only lose 3 inches, but the overall length of the vehicle itself is roughly 24 to 30 inches shorter. So in pricing a Type 3 versus a Type 1, which is the pickup truck fronts that we have now, the total price came in at $289,000. Which, comparing that to the quote that we got last year for the Type 1, is a savings of $137,000.
And functionally speaking, will it meet your needs?
Meets every need we have, yes.
And as far as funding, the EMS fund it's doing very well and can handle that without an issue.
With it being a smaller chassis, is the wheelbase the same, the side to side?
It's actually more narrow.
More narrow?
Yep.
'Cause I know in some communities they have now speed bumps that a lot of emergency vehicles go right over them because they're. Will this vehicle go right over it, or does it have to go ride the speed bump?
I think it'll still have to ride a speed bump. I don't think any of our vehicles will clear those.
Will clear them? Okay.
Not that there are any speed bumps really between here and the hospitals that we usually go to, but there are some.
Just in our parking lot.
Yeah. We'll take
Temporarily. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
There's a resolution, we put it as a first read with option to approve later in the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Next item, insurance renewal.
So you probably all saw that we just received information right before the meeting, which I sent as soon as I got it. And if the board wants to discuss it in executive session tonight and decide if you're going to need a special meeting or if you'll be prepared to vote at the next, just whatever the will of the board is there. But I am very excited about what was recommended and very positive about moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know about my fellow board members, but we did just receive this a little bit before the meeting, so I think it would be wise I would like to take some time to look at it. I did look over the proposal in brief before this meeting. The one thing I'd particularly like to call out and thank our staff for this is that the third paragraph here, your group has performed very well over the last several years. I believe this is largely due to your focus on widely adopted wellness program. So I want to thank everyone for their participation in that because that really made a difference when we took this to market. So again, I looked at some of the details of the plan. I think there's some good options there, but I would like a little bit more time to go through this. But thank you. Thank your staffs for participating, and it made a difference.
And I did, there are copies printed when we go into executive session. There are copies printed for each of you.
Any other?
Nope.
Okay. Pickleball.
So pickleball, it's been a struggle. We had one company bow out. The company that we worked with, Game Change, we did make some adjustments. I can show the picture, but Chuck was prepared to talk a little bit more about that. And one thing I wanted to add, ODNR moved back their grant. So we would really like to try to apply for the ODNR to cover Shaker's Run. So if pickleball courts go in there, it could be potentially, they're usually very generous with us. So that was the thought, to save costs. So Chuck, if you want to take it from there.
Yeah, sure. So so really the main focus where we have now is just the pickleball courts here at Heroes Park. We've gone back and forth with a couple vendors. We are really just looking at doing a resurface of the existing tennis courts, a series of applications of product, restriping, fencing between the courts, and then new the grates of the fence for the perimeter fencing is what's kind of what we're looking at including in this proposal. We have received one proposal from a vendor, and as Joy mentioned, the other one kind of backed out, and we are waiting on another proposal. At this point, I think we should wait to see what the other proposal is before we move forward, but yeah.
One thing I will add about this company is they are in Sourcewell, so, and they beat that pricing, so that's a consortium where, well, and I'm not a law director, but I believe we would not have to go out to bid.
Correct, with Sourcewell.
But yeah, all the vendors said we could fit 4 pickleball courts in that space, and it wouldn't have no impact on the tennis court. So that's all the update I have right now. More to come.
What's the timeline on the ODNR grant?
So sure. So the ODNR grant is just in limbo right now. It's waiting on the heads at the state to agree on capital budget for the year. The ODNR grant is funded through that. So there's really no definitive date for application deadline on that. It's just kind of once it opens back up, there'll be time for people to submit.
Okay.
So
They were originally June, so that actually worked in our favor.
Anything further on that?
No, thank you.
All right, paving 2025.
So, Jeff, again, thank you. He has been out, made a list of suggestions for 2025 paving. Typically what we do is send that to the county and get back the pricing, bring that before the board so the board you can look at how much do you want to spend, do these roads make sense, do you want to ride along, and with Jeff to look at the roads. So that's where we're at. Jeff, do you have anything to add?
No, not really. You pretty much hit the nail on the head. I don't know if you're all familiar with the Greencrest subdivision over here off of Liberty and Fairfield. Pretty much doing that whole area. And then I have King Avenue and Pater Avenue. That's due to the fact of us doing the work up there that's scheduled to be done. Ashwood, Knoll Drive, Carrington Way, Forest Hill, and Ashway. It's about 17 streets. I know this year we did 25 streets, which was the largest amount that the township has spent in history on paving. So
Part of that was we had the 150,000 from the county.
but I feel like this is a good format for us to try to get done. You know, we're knocking out one whole subdivision if we go this route, the whole Greencrest Manor subdivision. As Julie mentioned, they'll go out and check the roads and give us a total on the cost, and then here's guys' decision whether we go that way and want to add roads, take roads off, whatever. Thanks.
Any questions on paving?
No.
All right, overflow parking lot.
So the overflow parking lot has needed help all 10 years I've been here at least. And in the past, the county was willing to add that into the whole paving, just like we're going to submit now. That is no longer the case, so we would have to go out to bid. We could either do a full depth reclamation, or one of the companies recommended some pretty extensive drainage work and, full rebuild. So right now we have 3 bids. They're not all apples to apples. And actually the one that you really like is they're in an Ohio consortium, and I would have to have Katie and Larry research if, I don't know what that does to bidding, or based on the amount, if you would still want us to go to bid. So we can give you more information on that once I've talked to the law director.
So
So the
that's
prices range, they range.
62,000 was the lowest, right at 200,000 for the most expensive one. As you mentioned, this has needed some attention for quite some time. I noticed that when we did the spring cleanup over there this year, just the heavy trucks coming in really did a number on it. We have some water issues underneath the asphalt, so the recommendations is to do under drainage, which I agree. Like Julie mentioned, one bid was just basically coming in and putting a Band-Aid on it. The other bid was doing a little bit of drainage, and then, of course, the higher one, he was more extensive on the drainage and stuff. So that's where we're at.
What were those price ranges again, please?
The lowest one was, I think, 62,000, and then the middle one was 126, and like I said, the third one was right about 200, 220.
And another thing to consider is I did talk to the county, and they will grant ingress and egress to the parking lot, which that could be very helpful. That's a lot for you to think about. I don't know how it would impact the cost, but it's something to consider. And I would recommend that we had some kind of the gates that could open or close so that there's control there with pass through and the school and times and all that. But I thought that was interesting that they would allow us to have, a direct access to that parking lot, which could really serve a benefit.
You're gonna allow us to have another curb cut between what's there now and the school?
Correct. Yeah, that surprised me, yes.
Could that potentially help with the traffic issues with North?
Actually, Trustee Birding and I talked about that, and it's a good possibility. And you having the experience on the school board, you would have an understanding of some of that. I think you said it could help.
Well, as a resident that lives near Fairfield North, I understand the impact of trying to drive by North Elementary in the school in the morning and afternoon. And I'm sure that if we came to the schools with an idea of, hey, we could put this other curb cut in, it might help relieve drop off and pick up. Would they be willing to at least present some ideas about what makes the most sense? Because I wouldn't want to put a curb cut in someplace and they say, yeah, the traffic backs up to that point every morning. I think we should at least be in conversations with them to say, hey, if we were to do this, what benefits would it be to the school or what detriments? Because maybe they might say, we don't want another curb cut put in because everyone's going to use it as a drive-through. Now we have no control over pickup and drop off because parents will just be bypassing the official process.
Right, which is why I said there's that option of having the gate. The other thing, I don't know if this matters, but I think they lost some busing, so they probably have, I don't know what that does either.
Well, at the last school board meeting, they talked about because of some TIFs that came through the city and the Fairfield Township recently, and the cuts that the school board made with personnel, it reduced their expenses and raised their revenues. And so at least for this current upcoming school year, they will not be eliminating the busing to the extent they had planned on it. That they will have at least another year's worth of funds available to do that. So while it's not going to be an immediate concern for the residents that live in the Fairfield North area, it will be soon. Because they'll still need some sort of levy passed in the next couple of years to continue busing. Now, they did say they will not be on this November's ballot for a levy attempt because of the funds that came through the TIFs that were unexpected, and like I said, and the cuts that they made. So we're not in a hurry to get it done, but at least it's good that we can have conversations with them about, hey, we'd like to do this. Would this help or hurt your situation?
Okay. So do you recommend, would you start with the principal or the superintendent?
For the curb cut, I think we need an engineer to tell us if it's practical, and I mean, they usually have some pretty strict guidelines on how far apart they should be. I don't think the engineer's office could tell us, if you want to do one, here's where it goes. and whether it's a good idea from an engineering standpoint,
Mhm.
traffic.
Okay.
And then turn around and talk to the schools if that's the case.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, Eric Luckler was the one that said it wouldn't be a problem, but she again surprised me. But
It might be a problem for him, but we need to know if it's gonna be a problem
Problem
for
for us,
what's
right.
happening in this, this area.
Well, and Eric Leffler is the one that we took the meeting with on when we had the discussions over the traffic issue for alleviating this. So he is well aware of the engineering and the different options that would take place for that. So
Okay.
it's actually good, but I think it makes sense to circle back with him
Mhm.
and then to engage in conversations with the school to see
Okay.
if
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
clear on board
his
directive.
recommendation,
Okay,
that
yep,
would be good.
Yeah.
clear on how to proceed. Thank you.
But when you go to the schools, I would start with the superintendent as opposed to the principal.
$250,000, that's a lot of money for a
Parking lot.
overflow parking lot.
Yeah, it is, but
So I mean,
even if it was originally installed, let's say it was not installed correctly.
no, it was probably just paid, here we go.
It appears
There was
so.
grass, there was grass on,
And then even with the increased traffic coming in from the recycling dumpster, but one of the contractors suggested one concrete over there.
that's something we should consider, really. We're gonna keep that.
Okay, anything further on that? Okay, Schaefer's Run Park?
So that we have looked at, we've had discussions way back when we first started that we were going to put rubber surface on part of the playground, mulch the rest. The mulch has been a challenge and it has blown all over, it's been difficult, and so originally the intent had been to eventually move to full rubber surface, so we looked at pricing for that, and Chuck looked at some little swirly things instead of the older, what was older, like little, the old school that we grew up with, right? So that is on as a resolution for street with option to approve. It was definitely new to Trustee Burdick, and I forget that, because you're not really new, you're not new to me. You've been around, you've been here, and so, so out of respect, just to give all of you time to look at that and then decide it. So if you're not ready, then we can certainly put it on the next agenda, or if you decide this isn't the time, that's fine as well.
So I know that there were discussions. I know that Carol Oler was the leader of the Parks Committee, and they helped design Healers Park as well. And so I know that they redesigned a lot of Schaefer's Run Park. And so I was aware that took place, but I wasn't aware of the details of the mulch that was being used, and there may be considerations of it being transformed into a more permanent structure or permanent rubberized surface later. So I'd love to hear input from the other two trustees as far as the vision they had for that park when it was updated, and where they see that going from here.
I like the idea of the rubber mulch. The concern I would have is to make sure that it's something that it won't overheat on a potentially hot summer day to maintain this. I think that there's a lot of different newer model types of that make it less hot for the kids, but that would be the concern that I would have. I like that because it's a more permanent solution. The mulch we have to replace, we have to blow it back in, it's more of a maintenance thing, and I think the intent was to put in a more permanent surface down the road.
So it's not rubberized mulch, it's a rubberized solid surface.
It's just
or
solid surface, right, so it's there,
Okay.
it's more.
I know there's rubber mulch as well that doesn't disintegrate.
And that's not what we're talking about, because we're gonna have the same issue with that getting
Right.
all over. So I think it's just that, it's that solid surface, the springy things. I would just hope that we could find something that wouldn't heat up way too much, if possible.
Understood, and I think it just mimics what we have,
Yeah.
and I'm sure and it's the same company that actually did the original work, and they are in they do state bid pricing and a wonderful job, they're easy to work with, and they have the same consistent product.
I know Trustee McAbey, you worked very closely with Mrs. Uller when they were designing that. What's your thoughts on that?
I think we should consider where we go from here. There were some other things that we'd like to see at that park too, so maybe, I don't disagree that we need to do something there, but the mulch has served its purpose, and it does it in thousands of parks around the world, as far as that goes. $118,000, and that might be a good number, but it's still a lot of money. But yeah, I mean, when we did it, we did it, I don't remember how much money we spent on the whole thing, but, and it served the community real well. It's not easy keeping the mulch in, but I'd like to see us, again, maybe we deal with the other things that go over there, the splash pad, or what we're gonna do to determine how we continue to develop that park. Not in lieu of this, but in addition to.
In addition to. So we don't currently have a Parks Committee that meets often and discusses wants and needs and makes
Right.
recommendations.
We started receiving resident feedback, and especially the most recent holiday upset and mulch. They were concerned about the appearance, and of course we responded right away, a very valid, great resident, but there's been comments about that just because it's not as neat. And so they felt like everything else was so beautiful. So that some of that moved us along faster just because of feedback we had received. Jeff, did you want to add anything?
No, I mean, that's just, in my experience, what I've seen with different parks, that I've never really seen where you have wood bottom mulch next to it, or rubber mulch. Typically, everything in the playground, everything all on surface. I just feel like we need to try to maintain and keep up what we have, before we, it's just my suggestion, my opinion, before we move on to, putting other things in the park.
Sorry, Mr. Bennett, could you just clarify that? You're suggesting we keep what we have and just maintain it? Okay. So that it's all one surface, it's not two separate surfaces? Okay.
And like I said, it's just my opinion, I think we need to focus on stuff like that before, I'm not saying that a splash pad's not a good idea, but we need to be able to maintain that, all of that stuff, so it's nice before we break ground on these things.
It's in my opinion that I would like to keep this as a first read. I would like to just think about it. It is a large number. I would like to talk with Ms. Schultz about this and look at how much was budgeted for parks, and if that's going to put a crimp on other things we might want to do. Okay.
Would there be the potential of grant money for that as well?
It's always potential. It's always potential. I think they want us, I think the likelihood of us getting in grant funding for this and a pickleball court would be slim.
Okay.
Yeah,
So perhaps go for the pickleball court?
I think so. It's more dollars, so it would be more benefit to it, I think.
So what do you envision asking for pickleball? How much?
How much? Well, I'm going to wait and see what the limit is, and I'm going to base that off of that. had a couple quotes, but the quotes are, determined on the size of the court. So once I get a better idea of what the budget is for the grant, I'll kind of modify the project scope to meet the grant budget.
Remember how much it was last time around last
It
cycle?
was 128,000, something like that.
So, and usually there's always parameters to how you score on those grants. Sometimes, for remodel, for safety and things like that, you score higher than you do for something new. I mean, one way or the other. But if we could ask for 118, if we got that, I'd be satisfied. Versus 128, we don't know what the budget's gonna be. But I'm pretty sure that has to be done by the end of the month.
For what's that? The grant does not have a.
No, the state budget, that's what you're
yes.
waiting on
Okay,
before
sure.
they release their numbers, because they don't know how much money they have either. And I would think that would be in the next 30 days or so, we'd have some more information.
So is the will of the board then for the ODNR that we would go for the rubber surfacing? Or again, do you want to give that more time since this was the first read?
Good clarification point. So we have two potential options. We could go for the grant for the pickleball, or we could go for the grant for the solid surface. Or both, but we probably won't get both of them. So what are we thinking?
Well, the last time we asked capital budget, we asked for the veterans more. We asked for 250,000, we got 100,000.
Right, but I don't think this is for the capital budget. This is for the OD.
I'm sorry, I thought that was the language I heard.
It's funneled through it, but it's its own separate thing. So it's a NatureWorks grant. It's through ODOT, but it's approved all in the same time.
Right, we've had
So it's
great
not
success.
Specifically, we're not putting in an ask for the capital budget. It's coming through the capital budget, but would go through ODOT and then come to us that way, correct?
Correct, and so what they'll determine is determine what you can apply for, each entity can apply for, and then they'll put a cap on how much each county can get. So there'll be a couple caps made. Sometimes we're the only applicant, other times we are definitely not the only applicant.
And to Trustee McAbee's point, the scoring, the safety could, we'd have to look at that piece. I forget if there was any match, but one of the things with ODNR is you're required to put up, they send you a plaque and you have to put that up. So any project that's ODNR, you'll see on our park that has that plaque. So, but we've had good luck with our grants.
Okay, so for those two items, are we interested in waiting until we find out more about what the ODNR comes up with and then talking about this potentially at the next July meeting?
Shall we, in the appropriations, do we have 118,000 in case we don't get the money?
We don't currently. We can amend appropriations, or I can put it in the 2025 budget. But we do have money in the TIFs and the JEDs that we can amend appropriations for it if we need to.
So we could let it stand for the first read and then get more information over the next 30 to 60 days and decide.
Okay, anything further on Schaefer's Run Park?
No, thank you.
Okay. Communication, has anyone signed in?
No.
Okay. Would anyone like to speak? If so, just please,
Here's the sign-in sheet.
yeah, we'll need you to sign in. And I'll go,
in the wrong place, that's why I apologize for entering halfway through your meeting.
oh, you're
I
fine.
was looking forward for a zoning meeting on One-Way Farm.
You missed the public hearing for that, but you could.
It was tonight, wasn't it?
Yes.
You were in the right place, but it's the wrong time.
It was 7 to 8, I know I was late, but
Yeah, we started right at 7.
Do you want to say something about it, though?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead and
yeah,
sign
you
it.
can go ahead and sign it, and then,
And I will go ahead and I will read this and then we'll have you speak. Communication, this is the portion of the meeting where you, the residents of Fairfield Township, are invited to share your thoughts with the board. Please know that this time has been set aside from the board to listen to you. Your comments are valued and will be taken into careful consideration. The board will not engage in dialogue at this time. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes each. So if you'd like to approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you've got 3 minutes.
My name is Brian Sheeran. I've lived in Fairfield all my life. And right down the road from the One-Way Farm, or what's called the One-Way Farm, I'm not sure what's called right this minute. But I heard there's trying to change the zoning to a retirement center or assisted living. And I'm not sure what all happens, which if you're in Fairfield Township, I live in the city of Fairfield, half a mile away from there. And we can, at One-Way Farm, we continue to see fire runs, police runs down to that place every week, every other day. It's crazy. Now, what I don't know for sure if the fire and the police for Fairfield gets subsidized to go to visit a Fairfield Township property. But it's getting ready to be changed over possibly to the retirement thing. So there's going to be more of the ambulances, fire runs. You know what, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was 10 police cars, ambulances, fire trucks, hook and ladders down there for a simple run. So I'm not sure if the township subsidized Fairfield for the fire runs or the police runs, but I don't think it's a valuable venue. Right now, you go down there, there's weeds this high all around the property, around the building. I don't know if anybody, public works wise, checks that out or whatever, but I'm very concerned about it. It'll be a continued city of Fairfield problem and not a Fairfield Township problem. The city of Fairfield Township. So what is the consensus of this?
Okay, so what we can do is if you put your name and address on that, we can circle back to you. And just so you know, part of that parcel is the city of Fairfield, and part of that is Fairfield Township. So the front half is the city of Fairfield, the back half is Fairfield Township. So it's sort of a shared operation. But we can get back with you on those questions.
You'd be better to have a Fairfield Township fire department sitting right there.
Well, and we did.
Hopefully it'll turn into something like that for that whole area.
Yeah, and we're happy to get back with you on that after the meeting and to respond to your questions on that. Okay, thank you.
Well, that's fine, thank you.
Stop by and put your phone number down so they can call you. Just right here, and then Julie or
Okay.
Chuck will call
And
you.
the city had their meeting last week or week before, I think.
I did not see anything, that's what my other question was, when is Fairfield gonna have their meetings?
They've already had it.
Because there was nothing on the board that was posted on the property about City of Fairfield. And I thought at first, it's City of Fairfield office, so I went up there and said, oh, no, it's not. So I went back and looked at the sign and said, oh, no, it says Fairfield Township, and call this number for information, which I have not gotten anything back on yet. So I'm not sure who I left the answering service to
Okay.
on the board, at a meeting at the board in front of the property. There's nothing about the City of Fairfield having a zoning meeting.
I do believe this, the city of Fairfield had theirs, a month or so ago. It's been a little while ago.
And they passed it.
Okay.
They approved
I need to be more vigilant.
And we're happy to get back with you on your questions.
Thank you both so much.
Happy to help. Okay, the next item is consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered by the Board of Trustees to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any trustee may remove an item from the consent agenda by request. No second is required for removal of an item. Items removed for separate discussion will be considered after the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Schultz?
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee McAdie?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes. And that passes. Okay, so that puts us down through to our fiscal officer's report. So if we're following along, our fiscal office business, our motions consent, and our resolutions consent agenda items, those have been covered. We will now move on to our fiscal officer report, please.
Just a few things. One is that our audit for 2023 is starting now, this week. because we spent more than $750,000 in federal funds. We're getting a single audit, which means it'll be more in depth and look at more of how we spent our federal funds. So that's coming. Our deadline is September 30th, so that'll be a hard deadline. One thing I wanted to mention is in the past, I know you three and some staff have gotten fraud questionnaires from the auditors. In the past, those were not mandatory. They are now mandatory. So if you don't respond, the audit will not be complete. So I would ask that everyone who gets one, please respond timely to that. The second thing is that, there is a financial sustainability workshop that's being offered for government officials that would like to learn more about the budget and how to wisely spend taxpayer dollars. It came out through the BCTA email. It's being hosted by Metro Parks, and there is CUs available for that. It includes breakfast and lunch for all 3 days. And if you would like to join that, if you don't have the link, please let me know, and I will get you set up.
Are you attending that?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yes.
I did see that email. I thought that would be very, very good for you especially.
Yep. I think that's all I have, unless you have questions.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, one thing, other things, your tax budget, you all received the tax budget in 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks?
We got a list of numbers on a sheet. But
Yes, right. Which, as we know, the tax budget is just a preliminary. It will mean nothing as long as we pass a permanent budget by year end, which we will. It is just used to set tax rates. I used the same formula I always do, which is the prior year's tax settlement increased by a small amount, the appropriations increased by a small amount, and looked at salaries and everything and came up with numbers that were fairly similar to the prior year. So I'll be needing you guys to have a hearing and vote on that in July, please.
well, we'll be voting on the tax rates. Last year, we had to do it 3 times, didn't we?
Yes.
The tax rates 3 times, and it went something like, we haven't done this for them before, or whatever.
Yeah, we accepted the tax rates, and then the county asked us if we would waive some of our inside millage, and so we voted to do that, and then they come back and said we weren't going to, and then we
Because
voted.
of House Bill something was gonna happen, which didn't happen.
Which didn't happen, right. So this year, I hope that it'll go like, when the rates come in, you guys will either accept them or not, and if you accept them, then it'll be the end of it. If you don't, then,
Let's do this, let's accept the same rates we had last year.
well, we can do that, but we have to wait until they provide us the rates and then
We're gonna provide us rates on the numbers you send them.
Right.
Let's tell them these are the rates we want, period.
I can do that, but I think
That's what we used to do back in the Stone Age.
okay.
You know,
I think
that's the form that we always saw and said, okay, inside millage, those 5 or 6 columns.
Okay, well, once I see the rates, I can send it back and ask them to change it to the same rates as this year.
Well, let's just, can you get me a copy of our adopted rates?
Yes,
And that's what I would suggest we use for the public hearing.
okay,
These will be our rates for next year. It'll generate the same amount of money.
for next month's public hearing?
Yes, that's what we should have, not the proposed money that's available, the appropriations, that's the end of the year budget. This is tax budget, which is, again,
Right, but-
rates.
That is required by law for us to pass that tax budget. So we can't pass rates, we have to pass the tax budget. We can't pass the rates until the county sets them.
If we tell them what we want set, they'll set them, we can pass it.
They won't set them till October, though.
Well, we have to have them to them before.
We have to have them to them by July, our numbers by July 20th, and then they set the rates and send them to us. And I can ask them when he sends the rates.
Based on the numbers you send them.
Right, but I have to send them a budget based on reasonableness. I can't just,
We want the rates from last year, and you can make your numbers work.
it doesn't work that way.
Sure it does, sure it does.
I can't fudge the numbers.
Well, you fudged them anyway. You said you added this and added that.
Yeah, but that was based on reasonableness. That
What
is
was the reason?
that costs increase, revenue increases because of new valuations.
You
So
send that to the auditor, and they say, well, instead of being 4.7 mils, now we're gonna need 4.8 mils.
I can send the same
That's
budget
tax
as,
increase.
I could send the same budget as last year and we'll get the same rates, but that's not budgeting.
Well, this is the tax budget. This is not the end of the year appropriations budget and what we're gonna spend budget.
Agree, but if someone from the public said, so you don't plan to get any more revenue, No, there's no houses being built.
We don't know what we're gonna do.
But we do know we're gonna get some increase because there's houses being built in the township. So I can't ignore that fact.
You can't ignore that fact. Well, what happens if we don't do it? We get the money anyway.
Well, when the rates come in based on the real the numbers I give them, if you want to take them down, then the board has to vote on that. I can't fudge the budget just to make the rates the same as last year. I mean, that wouldn't be consistent. So every year we have done a tax budget with an increase in expenses and revenues, and I can't say, oh, this year we don't want to increase anything.
You can do that. You should set it the same as last year, and we're still gonna get excess money based on new construction and things like that.
Sure. Right. Well, we have to say
We're not gonna
that.
raise the rates on all the other taxpayers because we send a bigger budget to the auditor's office and they say, well, instead of 4.6, we want 4.9 or whatever.
I just feel like we have to have the real numbers. We can't fudge it.
Well, we want the real tax rates. So can you send me a copy of the adopted ones, not the other two that floated back and forth from here to the county and all
Yeah,
that?
the original ones are the ones adopted at the end when we decided.
The ones we're collecting from the other now.
I can do that.
That's the current ones.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm actually wanting to get some clarification on this.
Okay.
So I heard two different schools of thought here for submitting this budget. First, I'd like to discuss the traditional way that we've done it. So tell me more about that.
So it's basically a prediction of what we're going to get in 2025, but it's very early, as you can tell, because we're basing it off of 5 months of numbers. So I went through May 31st and based it off of 5 months of numbers, what we collected and what we spent. So I do the budget based on that. And then toward the end of and then rates are set on that. And basically, I look at a trend of how much revenues increased in the prior years, say 2 or 3%, and how much expenses has, and I increase based on that. Then at year end, when we do a budget for final appropriations, it's usually through 10 months worth. So a much better trend of what we see coming. And then I try to adjust for things such as if we got ARP money this year, but I know we're not getting it next year, then I don't budget for that. So
I'm sorry, I mean,
that's okay.
That has nothing to do with the tax rates, the money from the federal government.
Right, but it does the overall budget.
It does, for our permanent appropriations and our
Yes.
budgeting for next year, but not the tax rate.
Agree, not the inside millage tax rates.
So continue, please tell me more.
Okay, so then when we so some townships don't do a permanent budget at year end. They wait until it's actually due, maybe March or April of the following year, and they get their certificate of estimated resources based on their tax budget. I don't do that. I have another budget that basically overrides the tax budget because it's approved before year end, and it's now the permanent budget for the new year.
Who approves
Okay.
Who approves that?
Yeah.
You guys do, in December.
That's just the appropriations budget. That's our regular budget.
True, I do revenue and it doesn't need to be approved by the
It's not an
trustees.
override or something else or anything like that. It's based, again, an estimate of what we're gonna get in from all sources and what we think we're gonna spend, and we appropriate a certain percentage of it, and then we adopt it.
Yes.
And then we adjust it as we need to, right?
Right.
The year goes on.
Right.
So please continue.
Okay, so basically, based on my July budget, they set the rates, and then the final budget, I do the revenue. It does not have to be approved by the trustees, but you guys approve the appropriations, and that becomes our final adopted budget based on that. So if it changes, and it does somewhat, I don't think it changes a lot, but it does change because I have better data, because now I have 2 tax settlements to base it off of and stuff like that. And usually by November, I know a lot more of maybe some grants come in and things like that. So it's more accurate.
Okay.
And then, so when the county sends the rates in October, then that's when you guys approve the rates. And that's when last year you agreed to take them down because you agreed to collect at the prior year rate. So we voted to take them down. So this year, if the board wishes the rates to be the same as last year, then the county's going to send us what they should be based on what I estimated on my budget, and then you guys can choose to take them back down to what we collected this year and the prior year, if you'd like. But that requires an extra resolution. And since I've been in office, the county had never asked for us to do that until last year, and then you guys agreed, so.
Right, and so that really is that more of the exception than the
That's
rule?
absolutely the exception. Fairfield Township and one other township's the only one's done it, and prior to that, no one had. But there are townships that use their tax budget as their first quarter budget just to get through. So basically, all you have to show is that you have more money than you're spending.
And
That's the bottom line. As
okay.
long as you always have more money than you're spending budgeted, then you're not in trouble.
And that's the purpose of what we're doing.
That's right. So the purpose of this tax budget, 7 months or 6 months before the year ends, is to show that we're going to have more money than we're going to spend.
Okay.
Or we're gonna spend
And
less than what we get.
Yes, spend less than what we get.
I'm talking in that presentation, that 3-day presentation,
Mhm.
I'm doing the last day, talking about how not to waste anybody's money at the township level.
Okay. Are you? You're lying. That's what I thought. I'm a little gullible.
Okay, so based on your conversations with the county, do you anticipate that there's going to be any movement on that?
There is no conversations yet. The tax budgets haven't even been submitted, so they have to see the whole county's
Okay,
tax budget and start analyzing their numbers after they receive our tax budgets.
okay,
So those are all due July, and everyone does them. I mean, I do them at the parks too, so everybody in the county does it, submits it, and then it goes to their analysis, and then they come back with rates in October.
okay.
Now, in the past, what Mr. McAmey was referring to is that I don't ever recall since I've been in office, the county bringing us the rates for approval. They just adopted them. Like, I don't remember ever bringing it to the board until last year, and I don't know why, but I asked the county and I never got an answer, and every other township says, yeah, we do it every year. I'm like, I swear we haven't done it since I've been in office. So I don't know if that was something that got missed along the way, but they just adopted what they came up with, which is fairly common. I don't know of any other township that did not just adopt.
Okay.
Like, I didn't anticipate anyone saying, no, we're not going to take these rates.
Okay.
So I didn't see that coming last year, but have it on my calendar now over October to make sure I get the rates so that we can approve them.
Gotcha.
And same, like I said, same for the parks, we do that
I've
too.
done history, but we used to do that in July. We had that one simple sheet that said, fire 5.0,
Mhm.
police 5.0, whatever those were, and one for roads, 0.29 inside, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So I usually get that in October,
Okay.
or at least I think it's October, because that's what it was last year.
That's because it was so late last year.
Okay,
Because
so it might
kept
be
going back
earlier.
and forth, and everybody was messing around with what the state was going to do and didn't do, because it should be done, as you know, July 15th, really starts that process, and there shouldn't be any change after that.
Okay. So I anticipate getting it much earlier this year.
Okay, so now what is it that you want to do different based on what she just said, so that we can all understand?
I just want to go right to the end of the process and use the same rates as we had last year.
And how does that impact, how do you see that impact?
Well, the only way that I can assure that the rates will be exactly the same is to give them a budget that was exactly the same.
And is our budget going to be exactly the same?
No.
Our appropriation budget is not going to be the same. It's never been the same.
Yeah, but
Our tax rates could be the same.
Right, but our revenue will not be the same.
Right, and again, a lot of that is outside the tax rate.
Agree, but there's still, the inside millage is still affected by new construction, not valuation, but new
I don't
construction.
disagree with that,
Right.
but again, I'm in favor of, I'm just one lonely person sitting up here.
Mhm.
I'm in favor of collecting the same amount as we did last year. We're in sound financial position.
Mhm.
We've got more money in the bank than we know what to do with, not really. But, why would we have an increase? And it'll be interesting to see what the commissioners do.
I agree.
Because there was the biggest part of the tax savings that went across the county is the county turned their money back.
Yes.
So,
And I absolutely agree that that is fine, and you guys can vote on that when the rates come in to reduce them back to what they were this year. I just don't want to fudge the numbers to make it so that they come in with what you want, because,
we're not fudging any numbers. All we're adopting at this point is the tax rates, and basically it's our millage.
but
The
what
fire,
if,
the police, the voted millage is what we're saying.
agree, but what if one of the other board members doesn't want to collect what we did last year? They want to collect the
But they need to
correct
put a second
amount.
vote and, the tax
Agree,
rate
that's why I want to give them the chance to do that. I feel like we should do the process the way it's supposed to be done, and then you guys
We've been
can.
doing it. I'm not disagreeing that it's an acceptable way, okay? But I'm telling you, it's not the way, and that's why you said you've never seen that form before. It's because it hadn't happened for whatever, for 4 or 5 years. How long have you been here now? 7?
7.
Yeah. So, I mean, in other townships, I ask the same question, and it's the simple tax rate sheet. Again, you have to estimate, and we have to show the auditor's office 2 things: that we have enough money that based on what we're going to spend, and that we don't have too much money. Because we were threatened years ago about, you've got more carryover than you need to just spend this money or give it back.
Does that answer your questions?
I believe so. So I'm thinking we probably for now should continue with our current existing process. I don't think anyone up here, I think we're in solidarity that we do not want to fudge any numbers. And we want it to be an actual representation of what we're actually planning on doing and what we have and those things. And I think, is that your recommendation,
Yes.
fiscal officer?
Yes.
And law director?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you for sharing that. That was good, healthy conversation. I appreciate that from everyone. Anything further on that?
No.
Okay. Maybe have the administrator's report, please.
Sure, thank you. One of the resolutions will be to consider an additional amount for the CDBG grant money that will be used on King and Pater. King ended up being substantially more expensive based on the situation with the sewers. Pater actually, the original price actually dropped. So there is a difference of almost $264,000 that the board will need to consider if you would like us to pay that to proceed with those projects. So that's to be considered later. The opioid money, Kroger recently settled their part of Janssen, so now there's 4 companies in Janssen. So they'll be, instead of each company sending money, Kroger will be incorporated, Shelley, into the Janssen payment.
Okay.
This all started in 2022, if you remember. And in 2023, we received 31,000 and change. Year to date this year, we've collected almost 10,000.
And we just got 7 yesterday. Did
Okay,
you know that?
well, I saw that was coming from the Kroger,
Yeah.
and Janssen, right? So, so the balance of the fund with that 7, we're at about $26,000. Local government received 30% of that settlement. So, that was like a $600 million payout, but it's paid out over the next 18 years. So, one thing I wanted to not remind the board, but just last meeting, there was an ask from the coalition, the Fairfield Coalition, to consider giving some of that money to their prevention services. So I don't know if you received all the information you need, but I know that that is one of the acceptable uses for the opioid fund money. So that's all I had on that one. The roundabout, they've been working diligently, and they're hoping to finish in early August before everyone goes back to school. The website, I believe someone on the board asked, they were interested in the traffic and views. So what we found out, typical per month is about 6,000 average. Now the unique visitors, approximately 4,500. And then the hits, approximately 130,000 per month. So I just took the average of what we had year to date and averaged that out. But hopefully that answers that question as to what kind of traffic we're receiving and the use. And we're still adjusting and making changes. We put a scrolling feature up on top. That was a great recommendation from Trustee Birding, actually, and so we're changing that. We have one already ready to pop up there for tomorrow's holiday, and so that's been neat, but we're still working with the company to make some additional changes. That's Memorial. We met with Dell last week. It went really well. He is starting the QR code process that we discussed, so Chuck ordered one QR code box, and Dell's going to go ahead and start like with the center monument, the flag or whatever, and see how that works. And then we want to have one with the history of how this all came to be, and then each war. So that process has started. The stone is on the way. They delay it. It's been delayed several times because it was going to be here for 4th of July, and now I'm hearing that it would not. We do have some etching for the Navy monument, and then today they put the footers in for the 2 monuments, so the footers are in. Outside of that, we're still working on the September 7th event, and I do have a spreadsheet, but I want to, there's a lot that's changed, so I would add that and get that out to the board. And we had this movie nights at the park. There's 4 in total, and I'm working on getting the licensing now to make sure that can happen. I don't know if we'll have it by June, but I will send that the movie night at the park information to the board. Touch truck has been confirmed. We weren't sure with Kimco if that would all proceed. So we have a committee that met. Our committee is always involved all the different departments, and there will be more work for the township this year since it's new to Kimco. But we have some asks of their group. And then I also talked to Danielle, who used to be the manager, and she gave me all the information on the different things like the trains and who they use for the big signs. So I have a lot of information there, but we're going to do some asks for funding from their marketing. So that's set for August 3rd. So 10 to 1, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So outside of that, let's see, workers' comp, those. We do have recommendations for a steering committee for the comprehensive plan. So we have recommendations. There is, the tentative schedule was to start next week, or next month, with the first steering committee meeting. That was with Jay. So we were told 5 to 7 members, a board member, an employee, and I can send those recommendations to the board. You can give me some feedback as to, I don't know if there's interest, if you wanted to go with the board chair. So, I'll communicate it to you, and then how you all feel about it, you can let me know and we can adjust accordingly. Outside of that, right now, that's all I have to report unless you have any questions.
The vet memorial stone, you said, is on its way.
Yes.
And we know what the bottom portions of the stone will look like, with the squares for sponsors and for veterans.
Right.
But has there been discussion with Mr. Hodge on what designs will be on the tops of those monuments, or the upper halves?
There has, and there's also been discussion of how many, which level was a diamond that we would need more. So there was talk about making sure we had enough of the different sponsor level spots as well. So yes, there has been discussion, and I had asked Mr. Hodges and Mr. Goins if they would work with the board to make sure that those details were worked out and that you were fine with the etching. And so as soon as we have that, Mr. Hodges, he is involved in that. So he's been great. And he is also working on the parade. And we set that date, November 8th, I believe. I believe it was November 8th. And I need to make sure that's okay with you. Yeah, November 8th, we wanted to hold the event and parade. That's on the Friday before. And that way the kids will be in school because it falls on a weekend. So if that sounds okay with the board, he was going to get to work on that. And we've already talked to 2 of the former members that helped with securing the vehicle. So we have that all underway too.
Great. Thank you.
Any questions, comments, anything? Okay. We'll move on to resolutions, please.
All right. Katie, the only thing I noticed on 2494, we're doing this as a first read and section 2 dispenses with the second reading. So I don't know how we have to adapt this. Do we have to do anything to adapt it?
Not at this time. If you're just going to first read, if you're not approving the resolution,
Okay.
then I would just proceed as it's
Okay.
presented.
Okay, thank you. So it's resolution 2494, approving bonded rubber surfacing and freestanding equipment contract for the Schaefer's Run Park at a cost not to exceed $118,000.
Is there a motion to adopt? Shall we wait on this, or?
I would just like it to remain a first read.
Okay, we will postpone this till the next meeting. Okay, may we have the next resolution, please?
It's resolution 2495, authorizing the purchase of Motorola radios for the police department from Motorola Solutions Incorporated at a cost not to exceed $30,000.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
Any discussion?
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes, that passes. May we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution, this can't be right. Yes. 2496, authorizing the purchase of new 2026 Ford E450 ambulance from Medics Specialty Vehicles for state contract for the fire department at a cost not to exceed $300,000, and we added that as a first read with option to approve as well.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
Any discussion?
And how long does it take to build those these days? 9 months?
Be nice.
I think you're thinking of the other building.
It depends on where we fall in the order of, signing the contract, but it could be anywhere from 12 to 24 months.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Schultz, will you call the roll?
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes, that passes. May we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2497, resolution approving with conditions a requested zone change in the preliminary PUD plan by Optimized Senior Living as set forth in zoning case number FTZC 24-3C.
Motion to adopt 24-97 with the agreed upon conditions.
Second, any discussion regarding this?
And we have 30 days, something like that, to vote on the zone change, correct? Up to 30 days?
Yeah, to do after passage of this. If you wanted to wait, but at this point, you're approving it with conditions at this time.
Right, that's what the vote, but I mean, really, we could vote on this in July and still be within our requirements and maybe have some additional information as far as who's gonna do what. I think we need to resolve this issue with Fairfield over this, as the gentleman said, not because we're using their money, but because it's just the right thing to do.
Well, and specifically, what are the issues that you're concerned about? The calls for service?
Yes, I mean, sending our people all the way across there anytime, day or night. I mean, it's not a typical run. I mean, you have to cross the whole city.
Do either of you have any further comments on that or discussion?
So the fire departments don't have a formal agreement to cover that area. That's essentially a gentleman's agreement that's been in place for years. Any fire or EMS call to that area, we don't respond at all. Fairfield City handles it. If it's EMS, they transport, and that's the end of it for us.
Do you hear anything about their concerns with that? Have you had any conversations with Fairfield regarding their concerns?
Not yet.
Is there a problem that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can reach out to Chief Lakeham, have a discussion with him.
Okay.
But they haven't brought anything to you, and you haven't heard anything about this being a particular issue?
Not at all.
Okay, Captain Lanier, do you have any?
Every call that we responded to down there when it was a one-way farm, Fairfield did not necessarily need to be there first. So with the number of calls for service, there were times, depending on the call for service, that we needed an officer there quick. They would get there and stabilize till we got there, but we would handle the situation.
Okay.
Particularly because the houses in the back are the boys and the girls where they lived at, and that's where most of the incidents occurred, not at where the office and stuff is.
And this is unusual, but I would venture to say, based on our history with one-way farm, calls may drop. And that's saying that with an optimized senior living, but they're pretty, hefty amount of calls and intensity, that kind of facility. So the cost could actually, in my opinion, decrease.
The board has 20 days in which to approve after
20
the
days.
public hearing.
I was there at the city council meeting one night, and the mayor was talking about it. So if you wanna hear from the public officials down there, just give him a call and see what he says. I'm
Is
not
that
against
recent, or-
I'm not against the development. I just think, again, this is another issue that's left out there that needs to be resolved.
What did the mayor say since you were there?
He didn't like it. He didn't like the fact that they were having to service our area and not be paid for it. And then, in his words, and I'm true or false, he talked about lights and sirens across town.
So I know that there's portions, and police chief, correct me wrong, portions of the city of Fairfield that borders us north of Tylersville that we service, correct? And even though it's in the city of Fairfield, don't we make runs to that area?
We don't. The city covers it.
They come all the way out there?
Mhm.
Where's the closest station for them?
Route 4, Boy Mill.
They come all the way from there to service that? Wow, it's quite a distance.
It's what, about 5 miles? 4.5?
They don't come Seward though, they come about because of the train.
Yeah. Well, I've heard the concerns in the past, the way it's been handled in that area. I agree. I think our calls for service are going to be less for police, probably more for the city of Fairfield to service for residents. The applicant talked about how they don't call squads for every single fall or cut finger. So I'm in favor of this development. I think it's memory care is much needed, and that we have Story Point here that addresses that as well. So I don't need to wait the 20 days. I've looked this over. I think it's a good idea. I'm in favor of it. I mean, the zoning commission heard the case. They recommended it. The trustees approve it with the conditions. And I tend to trust them as well. So I know that maybe it's something that the mayor doesn't particularly like, but the residents of Fairfield Township voted us into office to do what's best for Fairfield Township. And I think this is a case where what's best for Fairfield Township is to go ahead and approve this this zone change. That's my opinion. I could be the minority on that, but that's my opinion.
I don't disagree with any of that. I could see the city saying we're not covering it anymore. That creates a whole different situation as far as
Sure.
safety services goes.
I mean, I know the mayor and several city council members. None of them, since their hearing, have contacted me and said, hey, before you vote on that, rethink this. And they all have my cell phone number. And any kind of meeting we've had with them, in any kind of atmosphere, this has never come up to where, hey, we're kind of tired of covering your area. And so I don't doubt maybe in a public session, the mayor has said that in a city council meeting, where the residents of Fairfield is watching every word he says because they vote for him. But he's never addressed that concern with me. And I don't know if Trustee McAbey, if he came up to you after the meeting and said, hey, before you guys vote on that.
No, I haven't heard anything from him.
Okay. So it could have been just something that he said in public to tell the residents of Fairfield that, hey, we're not really happy about this, but we're looking at the situation.
And I am correct, Chuck, that the majority of the senior living is actually in the city. We have less beds, I believe, in the township. So the majority, and that larger building with more residents is in the city.
Yeah, 14 beds proposed on
So that's a
township
difference
and
too.
then 20-something proposed in the city.
So,
And I mean, between ownership of the one-way farm, there's been some substantial issues in operations out there that led to increase in calls for services from the police department and issues with the building and zoning and fire inspection bureau in the township.
so I said I see that reducing. And then we have a much smaller percentage. Most of it is in the city. I don't know if that helps.
All right, there is any further discussion? There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion or?
No.
Okay, Mrs. Schultz?
Trustee Burden?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes?
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Okay, that passes. May we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2498, authorizing payment of $250,000 to the city of Fairfield, which this was contractually bound, but I did not want to make a payment without the board being aware and formalizing it.
Motion to adopt 24-98.
Second, any discussion?
Somebody just wanna remind us what it's for?
As for the road improvements, there's a road that's going to be, I don't have my directions, but it's across from UDF, there's a road that will enter into where they're putting the next set of buildings, so that's where that money will go. There was a grant received by Fairfield for part of the Seward Road, and then the developer is on the hook for anything that would be above our contribution and the city's contribution.
So do we have an invoice from them for this amount?
We just have the contract that shows we owe it.
And does it say when we're gonna pay it?
It does. It said by July something, didn't it, Julie? I read it. It was a date in July because it had to be paid before maybe the contract went, or the bid went out. I read it. I just can't remember exactly, but it was July.
But that's why we have it on this month.
July this year?
Yes. The work is supposed to start September and be done by December is what I read read on the email. Is that right, Chuck?
Yeah, so it's going to include, the road improvements include a roundabout at Tylersville and Seward Road. And yeah, this 250 is just our portion of the contribution. And they were originally looking at an earlier construction date, but they pushed it back to appease UDF. Selling ice cream. That's right.
And we knew about this and budgeted for it already.
And what account are we paying it out of?
The JED.
The JED?
The JED,
The Indian Springs JED?
yes.
Why don't we pay it out of the Seward Road too? Got $330,000.
We could, that's just not where it was budgeted because we didn't have that much money when we did the budget. I didn't know what we were gonna get in for sure, since it was new.
It doesn't say in here where it's coming from.
Yes, I did let Diane know what fund, but I think when Mr. Barbier wrote the resolution, he did not put that, but it was in the budget that was approved. It was,
Out of the JED money.
yep. So,
Indian Springs, Hamilton, JED money.
yes. Anything else?
Any
Okay.
further discussion? Mrs. Schultz, call the roll, please.
Mr. Birdie?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes,
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
that passes. May we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution 2499, authorizing the administrator to execute sub-grant agreement between Butler County and Fairfield Township for application of the American Rescue Plan Act state and local fiscal recovery funds for the Milton Street park improvements.
I move to adopt resolution 24-99.
Second,
Any discussion?
just paraphrase what it's for.
Sure, the county had additional ARPA funds, so they allocated so much to the cities of Hamilton and Fairfield, Middletown. I think Hamilton and Middletown received a significant amount because of.
They got $1 million.
Right, because of their demographics, but they awarded $150,000 to the townships to be used in economic areas that need the assistance, and I believe the board several meetings back thought the use, because we have to specify a use to the county, and I believe the consensus from all of you was to use that towards the park.
Trustee Birdie?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes, that passes. Committee reports. Trustee McAbey, do you have anything to report on the TID?
We met last week. It was just business as usual.
Okay, concerning the EMA, we met on May 14th. We talked about a lot of different things, but some of the key things that we touched on were the May 7th tornadoes. There were some EF1s, EF2, and Middletown had an EFO. Interesting story, there was one that was not detected until the next day when they went into work and the building was gone. So, bit of a surprise for them going into work that particular day. We're going to be upgrading the rave system, so be on the lookout for that. Let's see. And that is really about it for EMA. A few other things, but those were the highlights. OKI, couple things on that. We met last week, and a couple key things of note. I would check out, as always, if you'd like further information about OKI, check out oki.org. They actually recently won an award for their website because it is so good. So check that out. Right here, and I'm going to pass this to the administrator, but OKI is soliciting information to help identify and plan transportation needs for seniors and people with disabilities by taking part in our 10-question mobility survey. So I would like to see this put on the township website, Facebook, all of our social media, because this is something that I'll leave this up here if anybody would like to scan it after the meeting, but it's a quick 10-point survey that can help to address the needs of seniors and those with disabilities. And also they have a 2050 update, which is also available on OKI, and to take a look at that, if you want to go to 2050update.oki.org, that will let you see what that looks like. There were a number of other things that we discussed, but I thought those were kind of the highlights of that meeting. Clout, nothing to report on that one. And under other board member comments.
Thank you.
Okay, under announcements, our offices will be closed tomorrow for the Juneteenth holiday. Of course, we know the first day of summer, Thursday, June 20th, 2024. Our offices will be closed for the Independence Day holiday on Thursday, July 4th. Our tax budget hearing for 2025 is scheduled on Tuesday, July 9th at 7 p.m. And our next Fairfield Township Board of Trustees meeting will be held on Tuesday, July 9th at 7 p.m. Any other announcements? Okay. So in accordance with ORC 121-22, Section G1, to consider the discipline, appointment, employment, or compensation of a public employee or official, and in accordance with ORC 121.22, Section G4, to discuss collective bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation and other terms of and conditions of employment, I move that we go into executive session. Is there a second?
Second?
Trustee Harkemaier.
Yes?
Trustee Burden.
Yes.
Trustee McAbey.
Yes?
And action may or may not be taken as a result of executive session. So we will convene into executive session at approximately 9:10 p.m.